Hello everyone, today we're going to be continuing our Amazon IVS tutorials. Previously we took a look at streaming to a specific page in our Ruby on Rails application. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create a channel dashboard. So this is going to be a user-dependent stream as opposed to streaming directly to your homepage. You're going to have effectively a channel for each of your users. Think something similar to like twitch.tv. If you're not familiar, effectively each user has their own stream. You can click on one of their streams. Let me make sure I mute the tab before we do this. I'll mute tab, click over here, and then hopefully this will take us to a Twitch stream. You can see here you have the stream with the chat on the side. Now today we're just going to be focusing on the video aspect of that, which you can see right here we already have up and running. So this was a stream. I did a quick little 9-second stream. And then I also have another account logged in here, which is John, and John can also go to Dean 4's channel. If we go in here and we like edit our accounts, and I change this to just be, I don't know, Dean, and I put in my new password, I'm going to hit enter in the console real quick. If I click update, we'll hopefully see that this gets updated with the username. And what actually happens here when the user gets updated is the channel itself gets updated, which allows us to have a new stream key and a new ARN if that is required. So what does all this mean? It effectively means that we have a way to stream from a tool like that I use to record these videos, such as OBS. We can stream from OBS by clicking Start Stream and entering this stream key to Dean's channel. Or if we're John, we might stream to John's channel using his stream key. Right now, I'm just displaying the stream key on the actual public channel page. You, of course, wouldn't want to do this in production, but this is just a really easy way for you to test these. So this is John's channel right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over to File, Settings. We'll go to Stream, and the server here, we're actually getting from our AWS dashboard. So that is going to be, I think it's over here. When a channel gets created, you get a ingest server, but these are pretty standard, so you can just copy this and use these for multiple channels. So we're going to keep the ingest server, and we're just going to replace it with John's super secret stream key here. I'll click apply and then click OK. I'll now start streaming. It'll ask me if I want to start the stream. I'll click yes. This should take a second to go live. Hopefully this works while I'm recording. And then hopefully if we come over here to our list of channels, we'll see that John has a channel in this AWS dashboard. And in John's dashboard, we can see the video here is already previewing. So if we come over here and we just refresh the page for John, we'll see, and let me just mute this, that we have John's stream over here. And if I like move around one of these windows, you should hopefully see that this causes the window to move out of the recording. So that's effectively what we're going to be doing here. I'm going to go ahead and click stop streaming. So this is going to allow you to effectively create a video competitor to Twitch or YouTube streaming services. This does not include the chat yet. That'll be a future video. But for now, this is what we're going to be doing. And just to prove that this is working, you can of course go over to Dean's stream and you can see he's not live right now because we're not streaming to his stream key. But okay. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at how we want to do this. To get started, we're going to have to create a new Rails project. So I'm going to CD out of here and do a Rails new video. Paying no attention to the chat. That was a different video topic that I was messing around with. We'll just go ahead and we'll do it in here. So in order for this to work, we're going to have to follow similar steps to what we did previously, which means you're going to have to go to Amazon AWS IVS, which is this interactive video service. You're then going to have to get started and create an account and all that stuff. Once you're there, you should be able to visit your dashboard. We're on the low latency streaming. We can say, I want an Amazon IVS channel, get started. And this is where you would create your channel name. So this is how we did it last time when we were streaming to one area on its own. However, what I actually want to do this time is have a application that can create multiple of these channels. And I don't want to have to create these channels each time. So when a user account is created, I want it to create one of these channels. So for this, we need to create something for Amazon, AWS. I think it's the IAM. And this is the identity and access management tool. So here with this, we're going to be able to create individual accounts and give those accounts permission. So let's go over to IAM. And then for IAM, we can go into users, and then in users, we can create a user. We'll go ahead and we'll name this something like IVS video. And then we can go ahead and click next on this. Then it's going to ask us for a permissions boundary. We say, yeah, sure, let's give this some permissions. I'm just going to search for IVS. And in this case, I'm just going to give it IVS full access. This is, of course, going to change depending on what you want to do. In this case, I just want to give it full access. I'll go ahead and I'll click create user. So this gives us our IVS video. We can go ahead and open this. And then in here, we have the permissions boundary with IVS full access. And then we have the permissions policies. And you can see here, these are attached directly to the user. And in here, we can add permissions. And then we'll go ahead and we'll say attach policies directly. You can, of course, just use a group to give the group access to IVS full access. In this case, I'm just going to do direct permissions, which is just, it's an easier way for me to do it for these videos so that we don't have to set up all these extra groups. But that's going to give us this user account. Now, what we have to do with this is we have to generate a security credential. So we'll go over to security credentials. We want to create an access key. We'll create the access key. We'll say this is for an application running outside of AWS. We'll click next. And then we'll just click create access key. So this will give us an access key and a secret key. You can download these. You should. You're only ever going to see them on this one page. As soon as you leave this page, they'll be gone. So you might want to click download. But in our case, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to work with this. And I'm going to go ahead and run a code dot to open this up in VS Code. I do apologize for the lengthy intro. It's just, it's kind of hard to explain what this is for. I can't assume that everyone watching this is familiar with like Twitch. So I kind of have to cover some of the stuff. But now we're actually going to get into the tutorial. So here we're going to do a editor equals, and then I'm going to do a code space dot space dash dash wait. This is inside of quotes. So this is going to open up VS Code. It's going to wait for us to close the VS Code window, and then it'll automatically save. And then we're going to use Rails credentials :edit to actually edit our credentials. So if we run this, you should see the credentials file open over here in this other window. Cool. So you can even see here, it comes preloaded with this AWS stuff. So we're just going to copy that format. We're going to say AWS, we'll tab over, we'll give it an access key and a secret key. For our access key, we're just going to copy the access key and paste it in here. And then we'll copy the secret key as well. And then we'll paste them in here. These should go in your credentials file or inside of an environment variable. Make sure you don't share them. In my case, I'm sharing them right here because I'm going to be deleting them as soon as I'm done with this video. Just make good choices when you're doing this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and you'll see this is now encrypted and saved. Let me go ahead and open up my notes so that I know what we have to generate for this. So I tried to make myself some notes. So what we're going to start with is a bundle add for the AWS-SDK-IVS. It's going to add the IVS gem because we are creating channels for ourselves. So we do need the backend this time. We're not just doing front end stuff. And then we're going to go ahead and add devise as well. I just want to make a note for this AWS SDK-IVS. You can actually look this up on Google and find the Ruby gems page and go to the source code. And in there, you'll see a bunch of other AWS SDK gems, including a AWS-SDK-IVS chat, which is going to give you access to the chat API as well, so you don't have to build that yourself. But okay, let's go ahead and let's do a devise :install. We'll then do a Rails G devise user to generate our user model. And now we're going to have to generate a couple things. The first thing we want to do is add some fields to our user. These are all things that I had to test to figure out what I needed. But when you go to create a channel, it's going to give you back a response, and that response is going to have some stuff. So first, we create a username because that's going to be the name of our channel. So I just gave each user a username, and I made sure it's unique. Nothing special here. I then give it a channel ARN because we need the channel ARN to identify the channel later. We can't just call out to AWS and say, give me the Dean channel, because there might be multiple Dean channels. Instead, it's going to give the Dean channel a specific ID, and we're just going to store that. It's also going to give us a playback URL, which before I said you get from your dashboard when you go to the actual channel over here somewhere. When you go to the actual channel, it gives you a playback URL right here. It also gives you the ingest server. This was the one I was talking about where you have to copy this, but it gives you the playback URL, which is how you actually watch the stream. So we're going to get that back, and we're just going to store it inside of the user model. I'm actually going to cancel this, and I'm going to make sure that I add the G for string at the end there. There we go. Okay, so that's our first migration. The second one is we're going to get a stream key back. Remember that stream key that we used to specifically stream to John's channel or to Dean's channel, this one right here? We're actually going to store that inside of an object. We're going to call this a model stream key. We're going to say it belongs to a user. It's going to have an ARN, a channel ARN, and a value. The value is going to be the actual stream key itself. Channel ARN is just going to be the channel ARN, pretty self-explanatory. And then the stream key also has its own ARN. So we're going to store that as well. We're pretty much only using the value here and the user that it belongs to. We're going to go ahead and run that. Now we'll generate a controller for our streams. We're just going to give it an index and a show action. Pretty standard stuff there. And now that we've generated all of that, let's go ahead and do our devise::views. And then we're going to do our controllers as well right here. Let's generate our devise controllers. So that should be it for all of that stuff. The only other thing we might want to do is a Rails-G controller pages home so that we can have a home page to work with. Let's go ahead and let's open up our config and our routes.rb. And then inside of our routes.rb, we're going to want to set a couple things. First, of course, we want to set a home page. So we'll just set this to pages home. We then want to change the devise for users to include the controllers and the registrations controller, just like this. So this is just going to correspond to the app controllers users and the registrations controller. You can add the other controllers if you want to. If you make changes to any of the other controllers, you need to add them in here so that it knows that those are also overridden. As it stands, you can change these and they won't actually affect anything. They only affect things after you tell the routes to use the updated ones. So that gives us those two. And the final things we want to do is change the show page for the streams to go to channels/ID to channel show as channel. And then we're also going to have one for the index, which I'll just put right here, which is just going to go to channels, channel index as channels. Okay, so that's all pretty basic Rails stuff. Should be familiar with other tutorials for that stuff. But okay, what we want to do now is we want to come into our views, our pages, and our home page. So let's come over here to app. We're going to go into views, pages, and the home page. In here, we're just going to set up a quick little check. If the current user is logged in, if they're logged in, we're going to show them their email, a link to edit their account, and a sign out button. We're then going to give them a sign up and a sign in button. We're going to go ahead and run a Rails S now. We'll go over to the root of our application, which in this case is actually going to be localhost port 3000. It's not going to be HTTPS. That's just a fragment of what I was working on earlier. But okay, here's our actual page. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see this. So now what we want to do is when we sign up or when we sign in, we want to have it so it creates these things for us. So to get started, let's handle the front end first. We're going to go into we're going to go into views, devise, registrations, and we'll start with the new registration page. Pretty much the only thing I want to do here in the new and the edit page is tell it that we have a username. So we're going to come over here. We'll go right below the email and we'll just say, give me a username. Autofocus true, autocomplete is going to be username. So now if we click sign up, we'll have a username field. It doesn't do anything yet, but we have it at least. Let's come over here. Let's come over here and let's go into the edit registration page. Similar thing. We're going to put the username below the email confirmation thing so it doesn't break up the flow. And then that should be good here. So we'll go ahead and we'll close both of those. We'll clear this username field. So now we need to make the username actually do something. Let's come up into app controllers, users, and registrations controller. In the registrations controller, we have a couple options for how to do things. I'm going to do it the what I call the lazy way. It's not super efficient, but it'll at least get the job done. We're going to start by allowing us to use the username. So we'll uncomment the two before actions, one for configure sign up params and one for update params. So this is for creating an account. We want to allow users to have a username when they create an account. And then when they update their account, we want them to be able to change their username. So we'll just go ahead and save that. To make the usernames, to make sure that they exist and all that stuff, we can come over to our user.rb model, side of app models user.rb. And in here, we just want to say that this validates username, presence true, uniqueness true. And then we also just real quick want to say that the user right now is just going to has one stream key. And I'll tab this over and save this. And that's pretty much it. So we have a stream key dependent destroy. Makes sense. And we have our usernames. Let's come back over to our registrations controller. Our registrations controller, this is what I meant by lazy. We're going to uncomment the create method. And when we go to actually create a user, we'll do all the regular account creation. We'll then say @IVS is equal to a stream client. We have to create that. So let's go ahead. Let's come over here to our app, right click on app, new folder, call this services. Inside of the services folder, we want to right click new folder and call this stream. Then inside of stream, we're going to right click new file and we're going to call this, I think I called it IVS_client.rb. I'm going to change this to a lowercase I though. So we're just going to say IVS client.rb. And then inside of our IVS client, we're going to start by requiring that SDK we set up earlier. We're then going to create a module for stream and a class for the client. So this is why we're doing the stream : : It's because it's inside of a module stream. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's set this up. We have our IVS client. It needs a initialize method. For this initialize method, we can call AWS IVS client.new, and then we need to pass it some info. In this case, we have a region set up, and our region is US East. We're then going to have a access key, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. I have an access key that goes into Rails application credentials.aws, and then the access key ID. And we have the secret access key after it. That's effectively it for our initialization. Let's go ahead and let's create our create channel method that we're going to use in a second here. This is only going to take in a resource, which it could really just be a user in all honesty, because the first thing I do in here, which isn't the cleanest, I just raise an argument error. If you're trying to call this with a something that's not a user or something that doesn't exist, it's just going to raise an argument error. There's cleaner ways to do this, of course, but you get what you pay for, and it's a free tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and start with response, which is going to go to @client, which is this AWS IVS client object. We call create channel. We pass in the resource.username, which is user.username. Then we check if it has if the resource exists, and if the resource has a stream key, we're going to destroy it. We can then create a new stream key. We're going to say stream key equals stream key.create. And we just pass in those things we made for the model earlier. The response.stream_key.arn, response.channel.arn, and then we go into response.streamKey.value to get the actual stream key itself. And then we just attach the user to it so that later we can call like user.streamKey.value to get this user's stream key value, which is just the stream key itself. Okay, final step in here anyways is going to be to create a resource.update. We're going to say resource.update. We're going to update the user account now. We're going to pass it the channel ARN, the playback URL, and that stream key that we just created. It's just implicitly there. My formatter just likes to remove it. The only other thing we can really do here is when we go to update a channel later, just do something similar. We update channel, raise an argument error if it's not a user. We just call client.update channel. We need to use the ARN here. So the resource.channel_ARN is the one we pass into Amazon, so it knows which channel it's updating. And we just give it the new name. So whenever we update our user's username, this is the new name we're going to give it. That's pretty much it. We can go ahead and save this and come over to the registrations controller again. In the registrations controller, we now have a means of using this client. So we're just going to come in here and we're going to say ivs.createChannel, pass in the resource. That's it. For updating, which is down here, we can uncomment this. After the super, we can check if the username changed. If the username changed, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to say create a new client, and we're going to call that update method we just created. That's pretty much it for the registrations controller. Let's now come over to our views and see if we can get this to actually appear on our screens. So in our homepage, we have a link to pretty much everything except for the channels. And then we'll come over to our streams and we'll come into the index page for the streams. In the index page for the channel, we're just going to loop through each of the users. Say users.eachDoUser. We're going to display the user ID with the username and then a link to the channel. To do this, we do need to come into our channels controller. So that's going to be up here in app controllers, streams controller, sorry. You can tell I renamed this partway through the tutorial. So that means that for our index action, we need to grab all users. And I'm actually just going to copy the entire thing here and paste it in. So we're going to go ahead and do this because it's pretty simple. We just set the user for the show action, which is just user.findById. And then for the index, we just grab users.all. That's pretty much it for the streams controller. So that allows us in our streams index to loop through each of the users. And then for the actual show page in the streams, we can do a couple things, but we're just going to start by putting in all of this info. Okay. So this is all we have right now. We have the @user.username, the channel ARN, the playback URL, and the super secret stream key. Let's go ahead and let's try to create a user like this. I'm going to say dean@example.com, give it a username of Dean and a password of password. Click sign up. We can see here we have an uninitialized constant for the user's registrations controller. The reason for this is we need to actually stop our server and restart it. Otherwise, our services folder doesn't get picked up. So if we stop it, oops, and then we start it, we come back to user sign up and do Dean at example.com, Dean and a password of password. We'll get an error here because the user already exists. That's my bad. We'll get an error here for some reason. So let's go ahead and let's do a Rails C user.first. So we have one user. Let's do user.destroy because we already created it. Let's do destroy all. There we go. So now we should have a user.all where there are no users. Let's go ahead and let's start our server again and go to user/signup. One more time, we'll do Dean at example.com, Dean as the username, password as the password. We'll hit sign up. There we go. So you can see here, we update the users, which is unfortunate. We are creating the user account and then we're updating it afterwards because of how I have this logic set up. So in the IVS client right here, we have the resource.update being triggered after we create the account in the super. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. Okay, so now that that's working, let's come over to the channels page right here. But I need to go to localhost port 3000/channels, which for some reason isn't working, but it should be. Localhost port 3000/channels is going to the channel controller, but I called it the streams. So let's go ahead and let's do stream controller or streams controller and streams controller. There we go. Let's see if this works. There we go. So now we can see user 2 is Dean. If I click on this, you'll see all of the info is stored here, but nothing's being displayed yet. For this, we're just going to go to my own GitHub repo real quick. And we're going to copy the code from the previous tutorial, the IVS tutorial. So this is at github.com/deanout/IVS_tutorial. We come into the app, we're going to go into the views, the pages, and the home page. We're going to copy the turbo frame tag and everything that's included in it. Then we're going to go over to the app, views, pages, or sorry, streams, and the show page. We're just going to put this right below. So we start with the turbo frame tag for the IVS player. We then grab the IVS CDN right here. We put it inside of a div, call it Amazon-IVS. We give it a video ID. We give it some controls, and we give it a style so that the video stays a specific size. And then down here in the script is where we have to change some things, but it's really not that bad. Pretty much all we have to do is we have to change this from this fake URL that I put in here as a placeholder to just a quick little Ruby snippet that says @user.playback_URL, which is this URL right here, which is this URL right here. So we're just putting this URL into our script. It then goes ahead and does pretty much everything else. So we can now come over and refresh, and you'll see this is now appearing. But of course, nothing is actually here because we're not streaming right now. So let me just come over here and let me click Start Streaming. Oops, sorry, we don't want to click Start Streaming. We actually want to come over here and do File, Settings. We want to go into the stream again, and we want to put in our super secret stream key. Go ahead and apply this. Click OK, and now we can click Start Streaming. Yes. And if we come over here to our channels, we should see a new channel that was created. I'm really not sure which of these it is because I have so many versions of this demo running. And you probably want to create like some kind of background job to clean these up over time if they're like unattached channels. But this should hopefully kick up at some point. And then if we come over to the page where Dean is streaming, we should see the stream appear right here, which it is right now, which is good. That means it's working. So I'm going to go ahead and stop streaming because that's working perfectly. And now what we really need to do is just make sure that everything else is working. So if we go back to channels, we can try to create a second channel. So we'll go to localhost port 3000. We'll sign up as jane@doe.com, username of Jane, and a password of password. We can then come over to /channels. We can see Jane right here. Click on Jane. You'll see this is working. And now if we come over to our channels dashboard, we should hopefully see Jane appears right here. And if I just real quick test this one more time to make sure it's working, we can go over to File, Settings, go to Stream right here, paste in our stream key, click Apply, click OK, and click Start Streaming. Yes, we should see that Jane's stream gets picked up here, and we're streaming to it. And I'll also come over here in our main window, refresh, and go to Jane Stream as well. And now if we give this a second, this will go live. Let me go ahead and mute this. This will go live, and then this one will go live, and then this one will also go live. And now we can see that all of these are working as expected. So now you can have multiple people that have their own streams using their own stream keys, and it's all running through OBS. Okay, so I do apologize. That was quite a bit, but you now have something that at least allows you to do multiple streams for videos. In the future, we're going to take a look at how to use the chat alongside this. Now the chat's a little bit different because we have to use a different gem. We can't use the, what is it, the SDK gem. We actually have to use the AWS-SDK-ivs chat gem, but that'll give us access to creating chat rooms, and we just have to tie the chat rooms to these channels. And that should hopefully give us something that's very similar to how Twitch and by extension Kick and YouTube work. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.